All right, here we got a video, and this is really, really crazy. Initially, I kind of dismissed it as that something just blowing in the wind, but then after I started really digging into the details of it, there is something highly unique and unusual about this object that's flying through the air. So here's a guy and his dog. They're in England. They're on the side of a hill. He's recording on his phone in slow motion and catches this object, just flies into frame from the left and then flies over them. So what I want to do is really dig into the details there. But first, let's look at where I found this. So this was That UAP Girl, Hollywood, is where I saw that. And Nicole Freiter is actually who sent it to me, right? I believe That UAP Girl found it on Facebook. So it's out on Facebook somewhere. But you can check out the link. I'll include it in the the first comment like I usually do. But let's go back to the video. So here's a shot where I basically I wanted to see what the track of the object was, and this doesn't really work very well because that's in the way. But so let's do this. All right. So what I did was I ran it through, did some contrast work on it, and then I did trails. So essentially, you could see how the object flies into frame and then flies over them. I removed all the distractions off to the sides. So you can see it flies in from the left, and it's really moving left. It's perpendicular to them as it's flying in the frame. And actually, it looks like it's flying in the frame kind of like almost head on like this. And as it's coming in, it's kind of tilting up a little bit and into the center of the frame, so it gives it that elongation that happens. And then it reaches this point where it decides to come this way, and it turns, right? It turns itself so it actually shortens according, from the perspective of the camera, and then flies into frame and over like that. So this thing actually turned, and it was a significant turn. You can see it's like perpendicular to directly towards. So this is really a fascinating piece of data, right? You really, really see that. I mean, just look at that. That's amazing. It just really, this was an intentional turn. And as it was coming at them, you can see it starts to bend, right? It starts to arc. And like I was saying before, this was a really bright day, so you're not going to see much motion blur. It's going to be pretty clear. So if we pull up a couple more of the images, let's look here. Let's look at this guy. So here's one of the better frames. I was just looking at the overall shape of the object. Looks like it's a tube. There's something going on the tip, and we'll look at that in a second. At the end here, where it's a little bit darker, it looks like if you roll up Play-Doh and you run it into a tube and then you just kind of pinch the end of it, it kind of looks like that. It's flattened, like it's scalloped. So you can see that it's just flatter, and here's the shadow from it, right? Scalloped and turned just a little bit towards this, so that way it darkens that area a little bit. But there's light fall off all on the sides. This thing looks three-dimensional to me. I believe it is a tube. And there's just another closer shot of the scallop, so you can see the details in there. I didn't run any AI on this. I just left this pretty clean. Left it alone because it was pretty clean just from the recording, because of the recording conditions. And now we're going to touch on something that is one of the more fascinating aspects to this, because when I first saw it, I was like, man, is this just like a blade of grass or something that's flying through? But after looking at all these different bits and pieces, I don't believe it is. So now realize 140 frame or 240 frames per second. It's going to have I'll let this play actually while I'm talking about it. So daylight conditions, 240 frames per second. It's gonna have a very high shutter speed, probably in the order of 1/1000th of a second plus. This thing is not moving so fast that it's going to cause a lot of motion blur. So I believe what we're seeing in the clip here is the actual shape and size of the object, right? I don't think that there is any motion blur involved here. The only blur that we see is on the very tip, the leading tip of the object. You can kind of see it in here where it looks a little blurry towards the top, all right? And we can go to a detail of that. So right here, I did edge detect and I did some contrast work on it and everything. So you can see there's something going on here where it's almost like, it looks like it looks like plasma, right? It looks like plasma to me that's kind of coming out of the side, but I don't know what it is. All we could say is that it's an area of higher light intensity. So there's something happening on the tip of the object. And the thing that is interesting about it is as it's flying, let me see if I get a better... Okay, so if we look at it like this, we can see how it's coming in the frame now. So this is flying up and in. And you can see it's a little messed up color-wise because I have the colors pushed pretty hard so we could see contrast. And I was really wanted to add some detail here to the front. So I pushed and pulled on the colors a little bit to make it more obvious of what's actually happening up here. So you can see there's something going on the tip. And now it's more significant. And now it's falling off the tip and kind of coming back. And now it's totally collapsed. So whatever happened there at the tip has ended. And here's the most interesting part, at least observationally, that I could see from it. Okay, so this thing's flying in the frame. It's bent away. It actually has like an arc to it, right? So it's got a curve. And then as it moves, it starts to present this flash on this side of the top, which then begins to straighten it out. See, that bend is coming out of it. And now it's a lot straighter. Right there. Now it's out of frame, but whatever that was, that actually changed the shape of the object. It made it pulled the front over. And is that due to it flying over? I don't think it is, because if anything, as it flies over, that bend should become more exaggerated, right? Because it's getting closer, but it's straightening out. You can see it straightening out. So whatever that flash was in the front, the leading front, it adjusted its angle of attack from this bend away to more straight. That's a sign of propulsion for me. I mean, if you really think about it, its position in space has changed. So that to me is a sign of force applied. That's propulsion. I don't know how to categorize this or how to classify it. It just seems like there's some stuff flying around in our atmosphere that is really unknown to us, and it has some ability to basically, defeat the effects of gravity and fly with great speed and silence as well. I mean, these things are honest to goodness flying around our planet. This stuff is real, and we're seeing it more and more. That's the most interesting part, is that the sightings are increasing. I'm getting more videos, more clips. I'm not publishing a lot because I got a lot going on with my day job, but there is much more of this happening, and it's more diverse. I feel like what we're seeing is more diverse as well. But this right here is the most intriguing part of the whole thing for me. The fact that we can see what I believe is some sort of propulsive effect